we'll learn from Seahawks Training Camp, along with two things we just won't. Let's save the things we won't for last. And it's not a negative thing. It's just a way to say, here's what we're actually watching, and here's what we're going to constantly have to hit the brakes on until September. What's one thing that we actually can learn from Seahawks Training Camp? We can learn how... Now, last week I mentioned two gadget players on the team. Maybe it was this week, Milroe and Arroyo. So what we're going to learn is just their plan with Arroyo, because I feel like he's one of the more dynamic players on the team. Right, line up at tight end. He can get in the backfield if need be, slot, outside. Like, what's your plan with a player with that much versatility, and how much are you going to give him to start? Now, he might come out there and be the third tight end, which he probably will to start this whole thing. Yeah. But eventually, you start watching practice film, you start evaluating your players, and you start giving these young guys more and more. How much can Arroyo handle, and how dynamic are they going to allow him to be? Because it would be a shame to have that type of weapon and not use it. The only way you don't use it in that way is if he just can't handle the playbook, which everything I've seen and heard is that he's a sharp dude. He should be okay in that department. So from kind of an offensive mind point of view, or like a former player who's watching, I look at things in a very simple, like, how does someone's body look when they're moving kind of stuff. But, like, how are you watching for how they're using Arroyo? Are you looking for, like, are they sending him down the field? Are they using him in a certain slot? It's a alignment assignment, right? Are they attaching him to the line a bit more? How often are they motioning him? What routes are they running? Are they letting him get downfield because he's fast enough to stretch the field? How often is he underneath? It's just what routes is he running? What combinations are going to be assigned with him and the outside receiver or whoever? It's just multiple spots. Like, I would love to see him in different areas, man. It's always nice when you have a player and you have to try to find him. Where is he? Because he's not just attached to the line of scrimmage. He's not just in the slot. They're moving him around. So, but I think that's a good way to look at players, though, too, is you can see when someone moves different. Yep. You can see it. Yep. Speaking of, which of these young wide receivers is moving different? That's my first thing about, like, what we can actually learn from training camp. It's hands camp. We all know that. Like, who has these hands? Who's smooth with their routes? Like, who you're not going to be able to look at someone and say, I know exactly what kind of season they're going to have. But when it comes to this wide receiver group, you've got Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I'm assuming that Torrey Horton or like Jake Bobo or, like, higher up in that competition, obviously, one being a veteran, one being one being a rookie 5th-round pick. But there's a lot of really intriguing names, and someone's going to be left out. So I think this wide receiver battle, beginning with that 4th spot and onward, kind of those last 2-3 spots, are really going to be fascinating. I don't know if we're looking at guys who can be great on special teams. Maybe we're looking at guys with just unreal athleticism, someone that fills in the gap with the rest of the receiver group. But I think it's fair, like, one of the most telling position groups you can watch in camp is going to be wide receiver, and it's a really fascinating battle. And they're the most fun to watch during this stuff. Just honestly, they are. I mean, they make the bigger plays. It's two-hand touch camp, so no one's going to get blown up. They're the cool guys. We can say it. They're fast. They're just cooler. And they come in multiple sizes. You know, you got the big Jake Bobo. You got the small Steven Sims. You got the in-between Jackson Smith and Jigba. No, they're fun. And it is going to be a battle because we know who the first 3 are going to be. You don't – I just actually got done watching film on Horton the other day. My man's run after the catch is good. He's good with the shallows. Derek Young is a guy who's fighting for the spot. Steven Sims is a name that's popped up as of late. He was consistent during camp. Plumlee is a guy who played quarterback in college, made the transition to wideout. There's so many different type of receivers, and I think that's what makes the position interesting, because from the 5'9s to the 6'4s, you got them. So we can learn about the versatility and how they might use Elijah Arroyo. We can learn about some of these wide receivers and how they look and how the end of that battle shapes up. What else can we actually learn, actually take away in July and August? You can take away the running back battle. It's going to be Ken Walker, right? You got also Zach Charbonnet. You didn't draft Martinez just to draft him. We're going to see what he can do. And Kenny McIntosh. Talk about how different the wideouts are. We can talk about how different these running backs are. What's going to be the approach with the running backs to start? Is it just K9 getting 80% of the snaps? Are you going to sprinkle in Charbonnet? I mentioned Kenny McIntosh being good when it comes to running routes. Kubiak likes using the running backs in the pass game. You get matchups. Where does Damian Martinez fit into this whole thing? I think he's a sleeper, a 7th-round pick who was pretty good at Oregon State and Miami. How is this going to be divided? Ken Walker should get the bulk of the carries because he is the guy, and Zach Charbonnet should be next. But how much is he going to get?
I would prefer that it's not 50-50, but 60-40. Like, Zach Charbonnet deserves some carries, and Ken Walker hasn't been healthy over the past couple seasons, but he does have big playability. Is Kubiak walking into this situation and thinking, Ken Walker's our guy, we're going to run him until he can't run anymore, or is he going to let these other guys eat as well?
Okay, my last one is kind of just flip, and I'll be quick with it so we can get to the two things we won't learn. My last one is just kind of flipping and looking at the defensive version of, hey, we're going to find out how they might be using Elijah Arroyo. Well, I think we can find out how they might be using Nicky Manwari, and I think we can look at the different ways that he's being utilized. Sometimes you don't need to read into too much of it. Other times you're just looking to see how he looks, how his body looks, and maybe how much they're kind of testing him out at different spots, how excited they seem about his versatility. So I'll be obviously watching him as well. All right, let's get to in our kind of final minute here. Something we're just frankly not going to learn. We all got to hit the pause button.
You're not going to learn how good the offense is. They can look good. They could alignment, assignment, execution can look good. You typically do against your own guys. I wish I was there for the joint practices because you have a better idea. But you're not going to know how good this offense is. It's more of just knowing if guys are doing the right things, getting to the right spots, and at least making the plays, because it gets real once you play against other teams. You have an idea what they can look like and what they're trying to accomplish, but you're not going to know how good this offense is.
I'm going to say, coupling up with that, the offensive line. The single biggest question about this team was their single biggest problem last year. What's the offensive line going to look like? It's probably going to be one of the more common questions we see in general. All we're going to be able to find, and this is usually like later into camp, is the starter's second, third team. Like, that's all you're going to be able to see is like, okay, they're using this guy a lot with the ones, and we're already into the middle of August. Right. So this is going to be your starter. That's all we're going to learn. We're not going to have any clue how the group is actually going to perform together, because you're just not really going to get tested that way in camp itself, and probably not even through the preseason. So yeah, I think it will be frustrating to have that as the biggest question we can't have answered, but it's just the reality of camp.